On this episode, the flow of sexual energy and the 2 key edging skills.
This is the Holistic Alpha Male Optimization Podcast, where we help you unleash your true power as a man.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Stephen Mathis. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about sexual energy, the flow of sexual energy, how that works in our body, and the structure that is in place. And then we need to understand what part of that is instinctive and automatic, and then what part of it we must learn and develop as a skill, because they are very, very different. First of all, let's talk about some of the basic structure. What happens when we get sexually aroused, when we call up that energy, however it happens? We are drawing energy from the quantum field. That is what is happening. We are part of the quantum field. You can dive into Joe Dispenza's work if you want to learn more about that part of it, but that is the reality of what is happening, is all of that energy, it's already part of us, we're already connected to it, however you want to think about that. Really, we are part of it. But when we have that sexual arousal or desire, when you're edging, when you're having sex, that extra energy, that stuff that comes from somewhere, it is liberating energy from the quantum field. It's already with us, we're liberating it. So what happens when we get sexually aroused? We liberate energy from the quantum field and we bring it into our sexual center, okay? Our sexual center has a limited capacity to hold sexual energy, both in the moment as well as sort of overall, day to day, kind of in our life. It has a limited capacity. Then there is a part beyond our sexual center, really our being, our whole being, that is unlimited. Unlimited. You are unlimited. You are unlimited as a being. We are unlimited in the amounts of energy that we can hold. However, the sexual energy is limited. So let's talk about the part of this process that is automatic, that every human for all of history of humans has automatically known how to do. It is built in, okay? We call up energy from the quantum field. We call up that sexual energy. It comes into our sexual center. It builds up to a certain point and then it's released. It's released as ejaculation. It's released in the form of orgasm, right? But specifically, it's released for us as men in the form of ejaculation. That part is built in. It's automatic. Every human forever, every man forever has known how to do that. Thus, we exist as humans, you and I, right? We don't have to learn that part. It's built in. But there's a whole nother part of the structure that is also built in, but we have to learn it. We have to learn it as a skill. We have to develop the ability, the understanding of how to use it. Let's talk about that part. So again, the sexual center is limited. So when you're running into your edge in terms of your masturbation practice, your solo self-pleasure practice, or when you're having sex, when you're running into that edge and you feel like you're going to release, what is happening is energy is building up in your sexual center beyond what it can hold. Likewise, if you have practiced retention for some period of time and you've initially experienced a buildup, you feel better, and then you reach a certain point when it starts to be kind of overwhelming in some way. Maybe you get overly obsessed with sex, or you feel agitated or a little bit anxious or short or angry, or however it kind of plays out in a negative kind of way. After that initial buildup that feels good, what's happening is, again, you're hitting the limit, the day-to-day, week-to-week kind of limit of how much your sexual center can hold, because it is limited. Now, there is a built-in mechanism where our being, our whole being, draws some of this energy from our sexual center. That is automatic. We don't have to think about it. It's not a skill. It's just a process. This is the reason why when your sexual center is drained for example, you're in the porn, masturbation, ejaculation habit every day, you feel very drained as a being, as a man. And that is because, yes, our body is pulling some energy from that sexual center as a normal course of business to enable us to thrive. So when that sexual center is drained, we're going to feel that in a negative way in our overall being. But there's only a limited amount of that happens, and it really only happens to the degree that is needed for us to sort of function ideally in the present moment. But we can go well beyond that because the structure in the system also exists to move an unlimited amount of energy from your sexual center to the rest of your being, an unlimited amount, right? So your sexual center is limited, is built to be a limited structure. Otherwise, we wouldn't ejaculate, we wouldn't procreate, we wouldn't continue the species if this part of us wasn't sort of built in to automatically have a limit. We need to reach that limit and then we release. And by the way, that release also might happen in the form of like a wet dream. Same thing basically happening kind of day to day. That sexual center is reaching a certain amount that it can hold and it's deciding it needs to release some. So it's going to release it in the form of that wet dream. Let's talk about how we can go beyond that to the unlimited place. There is an unlimited place, and this is where the real magic of our sexuality is. This is where the real magic of our life force is in a lot of ways, because this is the life force that fuels us. So we can move energy from our sexual center into the rest of our being in unlimited amounts, way beyond that sort of automatic amount that happens. We can move it there in unlimited amounts, but we have to learn how to do so. We have to understand how to do it. And then we have to learn and practice within our own body to be able to do that. Most people will never do that. That's the reality. Look around, understand the basics of what we see around us. Most people, they live in this world of the automatic. They never get to the world of learned, practiced skill and expansion, which is really about moving energy from our sexual center into the rest of our being. Let's talk about how we do that. When we're edging, when we're having sex, there are two fundamental ways, and only two ways, that we can move energy from our sexual center into the rest of our being in unlimited amounts. Two ways. The first is active dissipation. Let me explain what I mean by that. I've talked many times before about how one of the most important things to having better stamina, to allowing sexual energy to move into the rest of your being, is relaxing, right? So active dissipation is what I would call active relaxation, meaning we're in a time of stimulation. You're edging, you're having sex, you're stimulating, you're building up that sexual energy, and at the same time, you're relaxing. You're relaxing your root muscle, your Kegel muscle, your sex muscle. I like to call it our root muscle. You're relaxing that. You're relaxing your breath. You're relaxing your mind, the rest of your body. The more fully and completely you relax, the more that energy will dissipate. And when I say dissipate and when I say active dissipation, it is literally a situation where as you build up that energy and as it's building up in a situation where normally your sexual center would hit its limit, you can relax your way to allowing unlimited energy to flow from your sexual center into the rest of your being. And it does so in a broad kind of way. That's why I call it active dissipation. It's not real sharp or contained. It feels like it just sort of dissipates and flows into the rest of your body. Okay, so that's edging skill number one. Edging skill number two is active pulling. This is where we are actively pulling energy from our sexual center into the rest of our being. It's an active process. It's an engaged process. And in many ways, it's the opposite. Our mind, we still want to be relaxed, of course, in the present moment, but in really most other ways, it's the opposite. On an energetic level, we are focusing and sharpening and bringing together this energy so you can pull it up in a focused kind of way. You're squeezing your root muscle. You might be engaging other muscles in your body. You might be drawing in a breath and holding in a breath as you draw that energy up. It is an active, engaged process. Those are the two ways: active dissipation, active pulling. That is how you move energy from your sexual center into the rest of your being. The functionality is built in, but we need to learn how to use it. We need to understand, first of all, how it works. Hopefully this has helped with that. Then we need to learn how to use that in our own body, because that part is not automatic. We're not born with the automatic knowledge of how to use that expansive part. We're only born with the automatic knowledge of what is required to get us to the point of procreation. But expansion and enlightenment and empowerment that happens from our sexuality, we need to learn that. That's a huge shift. It's actually a really fundamental shift, because I think most people, and I know for most of my life, I didn't really view sex or sexuality as sort of a part of life to be learned. I was learning finance stuff, and I was learning fitness stuff and learning about these other things. I didn't really, for the longest time, view sex and our own sexuality as something that we need to learn. But if we're going to expand and lift ourselves up through our sexuality, if we're going to become the very best version of ourselves that allows us to serve other people in the best possible way in this limited life that we have, if we're going to harness our sexuality in a way that allows us to get the most life out of our life, that is a learned skill. It's a learned skill. So first of all, we got to learn some of how it works. Hopefully this has helped with that. And then we got to put it into practice. This is where your daily mindful edging practice comes into play, because even if you're in a relationship, it is very, very hard, nay, I say impossible, to really learn and practice this stuff only in the context of sex. It almost doesn't matter how often you're having sex. We need time to get in touch with our own body and to deeply understand how this stuff feels and works in our own body. And then you can take it into sex with a partner and have dramatically better and different experiences because you have the understanding and skills within yourself, right? So even if you're in a relationship, your mindful edging practice, for so many reasons, is very, very important. And one of them is just the ability to actually practice this stuff and take what I've said today and the other things that we talk about and take it from a place of just being an idea to a place of understanding and experience within your own body. That's when it actually benefits you. It doesn't really, as much as this might make sense as we talk about it right now, it really doesn't matter much until you experience it in your own body. And maybe you have experienced this. I know some of you guys have, and you're going to totally resonate, and it's going to resonate with what you've already experienced in your body. And you're going to be like, yeah, that's exactly what I feel. And for others of you, it's going to be a whole new thing. It might be a whole new idea. So we need to take it from an idea to an experience in our own body. Our regular, mindful, sacred edging practice is how we do that. As always, thank you so much for listening. Oh, join us in the Brotherhood. It's free. Go to holisticalpha.com/brotherhood. I know you'll enjoy being there. I do regular live calls where we come together live on a regular basis. We have day-to-day live chat. There's discussion areas where we talk about not only these things in terms of sexuality, but everything as it relates to empowering and lifting ourselves up from the inside out. That's what I'm about. That's what this show is about. And that's what I know to some degree you're about. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here and get to this point. So thank you for being here. You kick ass. Go kick ass. Have an amazing rest of your day. And I'll talk with you soon.